Hi, everybody. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my background and why I'm here, and hope that you get some tips out of what I'm going to talk to you about. The title of the topic seems awfully long and official. I really couldn't name it Senior Executives How to Help Them Help Themselves. Which is what we're actually going to talk about, but that just couldn't be the title that I put there. So my background, I was in private practice for 10 years in law. I transitioned to Royal Bank and was in the law group for 5 years internally, and I supported the line of business that I'm actually in right now. And I would get asked all sorts of questions, and I would say, why do you do that? Why are you actually doing that? It's based on old historic law, old historic practice. Why are you doing that? So I did that for about 5 years, and then I went into the business that I did support, and I started changing things, took on more of a strategic role, and I've run different pieces of change or transformational initiatives over the last 6 years within the business itself. And what I find interesting about what's happened this morning, you heard a lot about making sure that your organization is ready for change, setting them up for success, and making sure that they're able to have a framework to try to scale that. At Royal Bank of Canada, you've heard a couple people here this morning, because Royal Bank of Canada is at that point already. We have a lot of support top down. President and CEO will talk about you have to do things differently, change is coming, we can't wait until we're disrupted. And you have a lot of senior executives who vocally will say they support it, work with Sally and others to say, what can I do? My feeling is, in addition to the comment that was made this morning about, if they're not ready, they'll talk to other executives and ask them. True. They may or may not always want to listen to their external coaches, which are a necessity. True. I find the next best person they will listen to is somebody who they trust in the business, somebody who has done a change type of project or initiative before, because they have seen success in smaller pieces. So that's the role that I tend to play. If people ask me, what's your job at the bank? I used to say I was a change agent or a change influencer, or I'm here to change the bank one day at a time. And people would kind of look at me, and I'd say, that's actually what I'm doing. So when I talked to Jason about what types of things could you talk about, and he thought this topic would be something to share with you here, I'm going to show you things that you could tell the executives that you're doing, and we're going to talk about some things that you're going to do anyway behind the scenes. So think of yourself as a double agent, almost in a stealth mode. I know we're recording the session. I actually told the two senior vice presidents I report to that when they watch it back after, they may realize I was doing things they didn't know at the time that I was doing. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. So if we go here, if you are in a situation where you have some executives in your company completely bought in, you have some who are on the fence, and then you have some who are just complete non-believers, I'll believe it when I see it. These are going to work the best when you have the ones who actually support it and believe it but don't know how to get there. But even if you have the type who aren't believers yet, you can do this in small pieces. So the biggest aha, I would say for me, in terms of our journey, so I've been doing initiatives and small projects, whether it's an agile lab making a change in software, whether it's a small team looking to pilot things. But what we hadn't done until, I would say about 18 months ago, we hadn't looked at doing this along with business agility in the business. So in addition to those labs or teams that are doing things, how do you make sure that business agility is across? So we had a commitment, Royal Bank Canada has worked closely with Sally and team, get that buy-in. Alita talked about other groups that are doing it as well. But my aha was, it isn't that the executives within our line of business don't believe in it or paying it lip service. It's that they actually are having a hard time themselves changing. And it really, to me, comes down to people. So I would believe that most of the people in this room, if you're connected to change or transformation, or you're looking to do things differently, you've probably spent a lot of time putting together high-performing teams. Well, how did you do that? You probably spent time understanding what are they good at, what are different people's skills, how do I empower them and make them better? So I feel like it's a similar journey with the executives that you are either directly or indirectly reporting to, because they don't know how to get there either. And you almost have to do an assessment of how can I help them help themselves. So this, in essence, is what comes at the heart of my aha moment. They got to where they are today by doing certain things very well, all within the command and control practices. They set agenda, they set deadlines, they wanted 5-year roadmaps, they had all sorts of metrics that showed success, and they don't know how to interact in other ways. We can give them theory, we can give them results of other companies, absolutely, they need different frameworks, but they don't know how to do it any differently. So we have to help them in order to get them to that point. If you have led a team, been a parent, done any of those things, you are equipped to do everything I'm going to talk to you about here. It's knowing what makes them tick and helping them with that. So the first thing is, it's not just them learning the new ways, learning about agile learning. They have to unlearn. Okay, so they have to unlearn the practices that led them to be as successful as they are today. And they have to get to a point where they're doing the other fantastic things that will empower the teams. The other role that I find I play when I'm in the stealth mode is often I will talk with my immediate teams and tell them that we're going to try this exercise. And then you talk to them afterwards about, so how did that work? How did it feel? And what did you see? So I'll give you an example. Hands up, has anybody worked for a senior executive who created an urgent deadline just to try to get you to deliver something? Okay. Has anybody been trying to work and had update meetings scheduled? I just need an update. I just need you to come in my office. I just need to understand this better. And has anybody tried to present an idea where an executive said, but I think you should do X, and because that person is senior, everybody thinks they should just try what that person said? Okay. So there are common pitfalls that they may not realize they're doing, or they may not know any better. I happen to work with some senior folks who they will tell me, if I should do something differently, please tell me, which is great. If you work for one of those executives, some of the time tell them. If they aren't as open, then lean on your coaches, whether internal or external, and try to get them to help them. But let's assume you have somebody who's a mix of both. What's your job? What can you do? So I'll give you an example. Your job is to protect the flow of the teams. So I sat the teams down and said, what are the kind of things that we're doing that's distracting? Deck preparation was probably number one. Who's at a company where you prepare decks for meetings? Okay. Who's at a company where the people at those meetings want a pre-read of the deck? Okay, right. Okay, so we started small, and this was the experiment. So you have to know your executives. I'm not saying this works for everybody. Jennifer Bensk, you told me to try this, I'll be in trouble. So you have to know your executives, and so luckily I had worked in the line of business I'm in for one SVP. When we stood up the transformation, they brought in a second SVP, so I report to both, and then our EVP as well, and the other people on his SMT. I knew them somewhat well, so make sure you know your executive, obviously, but I said to the team, so here's the first thing, there's going to be no pre-read, okay? There will be no pre-read. They like a 2-day notice and a 3-day, no pre-read, okay? So first thing, we had an update meeting on the transformation. It wasn't a steering committee. It almost looked like one, but it wasn't. They came in and, there's no pre-read. We gave it to them. They like to have something to write on. They like to have something to walk around with. No pre-read. We got through it, and the team was like, oh, there's no pre-read, great. Okay, next, no deck. No deck, okay? There's gonna be no deck. What we realized was we got through the meeting fine without the deck, but we missed one important thing. What else is happening in their role? They need to be able to go to who they report to and either talk about progress, give an explanation, explain what's happening in the team. So where we pivoted to was there's still no deck, we still do no pre-read, but they have a 1 to 2 page summary of something, And you see them in the hall walking around with it. And when someone asks them, they have something to refer to. So you can try something as small as that, and what happens with the team, I'll be honest, the first time we had this meeting with the pre-read, there were a lot of questions about where is the pre-read, and a lot of people on the team nervous. We didn't provide a pre-read, they're going to be upset. And we talked about it afterwards. What did we learn from that? How did that go? So those are some examples, and I'll get into a few others. So they need to let go of the old ways and then embrace the new ways. And the themes that I would give you, a couple things to start on. So first is transparency. The second thing is, what measures of accountability can you provide? Is there anybody here who has met a senior executive who doesn't want metrics? Okay, so they need some metrics. The key is which ones. And then how do you empower your teams by not only walking them through how you're changing the executives, but also letting them provide ideas as well. So first thing, again, I will share a personal story. I was preparing for this presentation, and at the same time getting emails from one of the senior executives asking for the next, where's the 3 to 5 year roadmap, where did it go? There is no 3 to 5 year roadmap, remember. So they will fall off the wagon a little bit and you have to get them back on. But in the midst of me preparing this presentation, I feel like us here, this is like one of those sessions where you meet other people who are facing similar challenges. It's like a group therapy session. So we're all living the same thing back and forth. So give them a different way to see where it's going. So my suggestion would be, make sure you have an end state vision, again, on a paper they can walk around with and socialize with other people. Make sure you tell them up front, this is going to change. This is going to change. We're going to reconnect, we're going to address, and we're going to do an amended version of the vision. Because otherwise, you set the 5 year vision, and like, we have the 5 year vision, we know where we're going. We do not know where we're going. We know where we're going today. But things are going to change, and you want to be able to adjust and adopt, and only way you can do that is them realizing up front it's going to change. So be honest, we repeat this often to different executives. Remember, we talked about this was going to change. Oh, yes, right. Second thing is the transparency. So we talk a lot in the actual teams, and I've got some teams doing software-related builds, and I've got other teams who have no software they're building at all. They're doing simplification efforts, policy simplification, process simplification. This applies to any of those teams. In those teams we talk about impediments, you have to have the same conversations with the executives. They have to understand what the impediments are. They have to understand that things are going to not always go as planned. There was a lot of talk this morning about pivoting. We have to be transparent about when we are pivoting. We have to be transparent about when we're changing course and when things don't go as planned. So I'll give another example, OKRs. We've had various different versions of ways to state OKRs, measure OKRs, and we don't have executive steering committee meetings, but we do have quarterly update meetings with the senior leadership team to say how we're doing. And we had one quarter this past year where we had set our OKRs and we were nowhere close to meeting them as stated. But we had reasons why, and we had things we learned, and those things were going to actually set us up for success later. So the team was incredibly nervous. You're going to go sit in front of all of those people and tell them that we didn't meet those OKRs. Yeah. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to be all. They were very, very concerned. I said, so here's what we're going to do. I'm not just going to walk in and say we didn't meet these OKRs. I'm going to say we didn't meet them. Here's why. Here's what we learned, and here's what we're doing about it. And I went back to the team afterwards and said, this is how it went. This is how they took it. The other thing is, if you don't want it to be a status update meeting, give the executives a job. So it's great to say you have to attend these ceremonies. Sure, give them a job. So let's say there's an obstacle that needs removing, assign it to them, put their name on it, and when they come back, have them stand up and explain how they removed it.
Hallelujah.
Okay? Okay. So you'll tell them that you're doing that so that the team sees that they're participating in all the things. But you're actually doing it because then it becomes less about a status meeting and more about how they're actually helping with the change. So here we go with the metrics. You need to still measure success because no company is going to let you run a huge transformational or small transformational program without metrics. So not weekly exhaustive status reports that if anyone has done a waterfall project doesn't actually show you how well the project is going anyway. Evaluate how did you do against what you thought you would do. So if you're doing it in sprints, where did you think you would get to? Where did you actually get to? If you have a release date because or a date you're publishing something or changing a process, okay, what percentage of the way there are you? And then the next time, are you still on track or are you not? So you can still provide, and there's metrics that Sally and others can give you to show them. Pick the ones you're going to use, stay consistent, and then they get a new report every 2 weeks, the 1 or 2 pager that had no pre-read, and they walk around with it and they can see the progress. In terms of visibly empowering the teams, which I spoke to, this is about them being able to walk and talk about the vision and them allowing decisions to be made within the teams. So they should come to ceremonies, they should come to stand-ups, they should come and be visible so that the teams see them, but make sure you know what it is you want them doing there. The other piece is, like I said, it's a work in progress. It's definitely not something that you're going to solve overnight, and there's no magic formula, but if you have gotten to where you are today, understanding how you could be successful, you would have had to look at what do I need to do to make sure that people see I'm adding value. It's a very similar analysis. Look at that executive or group of executives that you're looking to work with. What drives them? What would be something that they would then start to see their progress? So with our executives, if they do something that is visibly better, I will actually go and say, you know what, when you did X with the team, that was great, keep doing that. Because they're going to hear from coaches, you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that, and you should try this. They want to feel good about themselves too. So tell them when they've done something great, or when the team felt something great, and then they will repeat those things. The other thing I would say is, find others in your organization who are driving the change you're driving. So at this point in time right now, I have 5 different squads running Agile and about 80 to 100 combined teams of different people, IT, business, everything. Make sure that you think about who you could bounce some of these things off of, that you could say, I tried this, didn't work, or I might try that, what do you think? So you got to sort of find, it's almost a support group without calling it that, that you could look at and bounce it off of them and see what they have found that works and found that doesn't work. I'll be honest, sometimes you purposely know that you're going to shock them, like the example of the no pre-read. Prepare your teams that you're trying this. We're going to try this, what? And then we had one who said, well, he looked uncomfortable. Yes. If he looks uncomfortable, we're doing it right. Thank you very much.